Anti-democratic world government advocate attends Bilderberg. Financial Times writer Gideon Rachman was in attendance at this year's 2012 Bilderberg Group conference, no doubt to further the agenda he advanced in a December 2008 FT article in which he argued that, quote, everything is in place for a dictatorial world government to be imposed by a technocratic elite. Now, if you've ever wanted to see just the perfect illustration of, you know, a ladder-climbing, snivelling, elitist, toff snob wannabe, then it's Gideon Rachman. His picture's in this article arriving at Bilderberg. And he's been well rewarded by the global elite because this 2008 FT article, which of course is basically the voice of Bilderberg, he calls for a UN army to enforce global carbon taxes, said it should be based on the EU, and said that basically it can only work if it's, quote, anti-democratic. This is the darling of Bilderberg. He's been rewarded almost every year since by attendance at the actual meeting. This is the guy who openly calls for authoritarian world government to be imposed by stealth. So basically, I sent him an email today because I noticed he was at Bilderberg, challenging him to a debate. Let's have a debate about why an authoritarian world government imposed by stealth is so necessary. Here's the email I sent him. Don't expect a response, but here we go anyway. Gideon, I'm guessing your war criminal friend Henry Kissinger was receptive to the ideas outlined in your "And Now for a World Government" piece. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot over 100 of the world's power brokers jet halfway across the world for 3 days just for a nice dinner and a game of golf. That's according to Romney's foreign policy advisor. So when's your report on Bilderberg 2012 going to appear in the Financial Times? I know. Wolfie, that's of course Martin Wolf, FT editor, Bilderberg member, would never allow such heresy. Were you one of the snobs labeling us all cockroaches? Come on, Gideon, there's still time for you to turn away from the dark side. I challenge you to a debate on the Alex Jones Show. Do you have the balls? And judging by the fact that whenever you mention Bilderberg to these scum, it's like holding up a cross to a vampire or something. They turn and scatter like cockroaches. So I don't expect any response, but the challenge is there, Gideon. Let's have a debate about all this and let's see if he acts like all the other cockroaches and runs away like a big girl's blouse. Let's have a debate about it. Let's get it open on the air. The challenge is there. Gideon Rachman, do you respond? Video now. The Bilderberg Exodus. This is where the Bilderberg members all leave and are confronted by the protesters there outside the hotel. Let's go to this clip.
You're going to jail, you New Orleans scum! We got you! We got you! Yeah!
Catching some of the Bilderbergers on their way out.
Hey, buddy, what's up? Yeah! We got you!
I just got a message from the dispatcher telling me the same thing that you just said.
Which is what?
But people getting arrested for stopping in the crosswalk or using the crosswalk.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, just to clarify, what he told me was at one point in time for a brief period, you were asked not to step in the crosswalk or use it because I guess cars were coming through or something like that.
Right. So
but now you're entitled to use the crosswalk as you normally would as a citizen. Okay. So you guys, are you going to help me out or?
I'm not going to leave because as far as I know, this is public property. Okay, I mean, they can ask.
All I got to do is I'll tell my boss I asked you.
Yeah, you tell him he can ask all he wants.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. And now we have another one coming up. So we'll show you just exactly what we've been doing here on this middle center island. Here he comes. Here he comes.
Nobody step in the street.
He didn't want to
Nobody in the street.
He's waiting for the light.
Hey, that's a good photo. Anybody get this photo?
Go home. Go home. Go home, you globalist scumbag.
Fuck you!
Do not touch the cars and keep moving. Do not touch the cars.
Oh, you want your New World Order, huh?
Move in the crosswalk. Moving. Do not touch the cars.
Oh, you want your New World Order, huh?
Move in the crosswalk.
Great video from Dan Dix there, Press for Truth TV, of all the protesters confronting Bilderberg members as they left. That's when they got some more great photographs, which we'll be putting on the website over the next few days. Syria regime change on Bilderberg agenda. We put this out on Saturday, but I wanted to get back into it because it's important. The presence of Syrian National Transitional Council head Basma Khadmani at the 2012 Bilderberg conference clearly indicates that power brokers at the elite confab will be discussing the effort to topple President Bashar al-Assad and install a NATO-friendly administration in the violence-stricken country. Khadmani is the head of foreign affairs with the SNC, a coalition of Syrian opposition groups based in Istanbul, Turkey. While at the Bilderberg meeting, she will be in the company, the esteemed company, of the likes of former Secretary of State and accused war criminal Henry Kissinger, war hawk Richard Pearl, and Thomas E. Donilon, National Security Advisor for the Obama White House. So we've got this Syrian rebel transitional representative scuttling away to her little conference room to plot with Bilderberg about overthrowing another sovereign country. Brookings Institute, of course, the think tank that's laid out the plan in explicit detail to topple Syria for the globalists, they're represented at Bilderberg. She's no doubt going to be discussing things with them, or has done over the past few days. Then, of course, the news that came out during the conference, Bilderberg member and close friend of Kissinger, Fareed Zakaria, pushing on CNN a plan to starve Syrians to death as part of the regime change humanitarian love mission. Of course, we had the Hula massacre happened last weekend. Eyewitnesses said it was carried out by terrorists. That's being blamed on Assad's forces, like it would be such a great global propaganda coup to go and massacre dozens of kids. But that's becoming the central hallmark on which all this is being built. It's sounding very much like the Hill and Knowlton Saddam incubator baby hoax. And of course, Susan Rice came out. This is the US ambassador who likes to openly make terrorist threats. If you don't stand down, you'll get more terrorist attacks. That's literally what she said a couple of weeks ago. We got Hillary Clinton coming out, another merchant of death. Both of them are threatening more military action. And Syria is definitely the next domino that they need to fall. And that's why this SNC Syria member was at Bilderberg this year. Word is they're planning a fake Saddam-style faux revolution statue toppling ceremony in the middle of Damascus to try and fake senior military commanders in the Syrian army into the false assumption that the end of the regime is near. They're trying to get them to defect by staging a fake statue toppling. Remember the one in Iraq? They claimed it was, you know, thousands of Iraqis in Baghdad. Turned out it was a handful led by Ahmed Shalabi, the US stooge. So they're planning on some global media event like that to try and get military commanders to defect in Syria. There's also a plan in place to shut down Syrian state TV so the opposition can monopolize the propaganda. And Bilderberg is firmly behind regime change in Syria, just as they were in Libya. Remember Sam Moritz last year in Switzerland? Bilderberg gave the green light to get the job finished in Libya. A few months later, Gaddafi was gone, and the friendly NATO-backed al-Qaeda rebels were flying their black and white flag over courthouses and other centers of power in Libya. So it seems, again, history is repeating itself, with Bilderberg moving firmly behind the agenda with the rest of the neocon establishment to attack Syria. Now, moving on to other news. CFR proposes using army to enforce domestic law. This is out of Infowars.com. The Council on Foreign Relations, the elite think tank long associated with globalist policymaking and subversion of the principles of the US Constitution, has published an article that proposes using the army to plan and carry out domestic law enforcement missions in the US. An article in the May-June issue of CFR's official journal, Foreign Affairs, calls for the army to address challenges in the United States itself. That's a quote, with the justification being to protect Americans from terrorist attacks. And this article is just goes into voluminous detail about the documented militarization of domestic law enforcement, which of course picked up from 2008 onwards with the announcement that Northcom troops would be inside the US performing crowd control, dealing with civil unrest. With now, of course, we've got routine urban warfare training drills involving National Guard troops marching down US streets. We had the picture a couple of months ago with the article in Crookston, where they had the National Guard out there patrolling residential neighborhoods like it was nothing to worry about. So again, this article goes into great detail about the domestic militarization of law enforcement, and now, of course, they're bringing that to the next level with the 30,000 drones in the sky. Related story here out of Infowars.com, which is up on drudgereport.com. EPA using drones to spy on cattle ranchers in Nebraska and Iowa. Obama's Environmental Protection Agency is using aerial drones to spy on farmers in Nebraska and Iowa. The surveillance came under scrutiny last week when Nebraska's congressional delegation sent a joint letter to EPA Administrator Lisa Jackson. So in the context of the comments made by Charles Krauthammer last month, you know, that the first American to shoot down a domestic drone will be a folk hero, it's sure looking like it's going to be a target-rich environment. Everybody's jumping on board. And again, everything we saw used against insurgents and terrorists in Iraq and Afghanistan is now being enforced domestically. They were the ones getting body scanned, you know, put in biometric databases 10 years ago. They were the ones on the run from drones. Now it's the American people's turn to taste the tyranny that people in foreign countries have been experiencing for decades. And we've stressed this point before. I mean, the federal government treats its own population as an enemy that needs to be conquered. That's implicit in all the documents that they've put out, labeling anybody who's even tangentially interested in politics or activism as a domestic extremist, as a threat. You know, pay cash for a coffee, you're a potential terrorist. And that, you know, that kind of mindset can only lead to two outcomes: civil war, complete serfdom. That's why we're trying to peaceably inform and enlighten enough Americans to the point where they back off from doing it. Doesn't look like it's going to happen at the moment. They keep lurching forward with this domestic militarization, drone army agenda. Now, of course, they've got the drones armed with taser guns, non-lethal weapons to incapacitate protesters. So it's definitely being stepped up to the next level. But of course, the resistance matches it in every facet. That's why you've got record gun sales, all-time record highs. That's why, as our friend Gideon Rackman, the Bilderberg member who I talked about earlier, said, quote, people are reaching for their rifles in America's talk radio heartland. That's right. The Bilderbergers know that the resentment, the fury is building, and that's only going to increase as this domestic militarization of law enforcement agenda rolls out from the major cities and beyond. Infowars Nightly News quote of the day: "You are a den of vipers. I intend to rout you out. And by the eternal God, I will rout you out. If the people only understood the rank injustice of our money and the banking system, there would be a revolution before morning." That's President Andrew Jackson, who, with rhetoric like that, of course, the 7th president of the United States, with talk like that, would have no doubt been labeled a cockroach by the elite of his day, just as the elite of our day label us cockroaches. I want to urge you again to check out planetinfowars.com. Of course, this is our big new social network. The kind of protests you saw at Bilderberg, we want to see that more often We want to see it in ever greater numbers, and that's the place where you can go and network with other like-minded people. You can also put your own blog on there. You can have discussions. There's a dating section. You can meet like-minded people for relationships. And we put a lot of work into this. It's been many years in the making, and it's proving wildly popular already. Thousands and thousands of subscribers. It's all free. It's all there for you to use. So I urge you to visit planetinfowars.com. Of course, the other promotional vehicle that we have to mention, because it funds our entire operation, is prisonplanet.tv. Now, the hours and hours of live streaming you saw at Bilderberg, that's not free. That costs a lot of money. In fact, I remember last year in Switzerland, we constantly had to ring up and demand extra data on our plan because it was just costing thousands and thousands of dollars a day. You know, all the travel expenses, the hotel expenses. We're not funded by George Soros. We're not funded by the Kremlin. We're not funded by any government, state, or major corporation. We're funded by you, our subscribers at prisonplanet.tv. So if you're watching this on YouTube, please consider subscribing. You get a whole host of content, Alex Jones Show, radio archives, the nightly news archives, the live stream, speeches, special events, rants, behind-the-scenes stuff. It's all there in one place at prisonplanet.tv, and it helps fund our entire operation. So please subscribe at prisonplanet.tv. That's going to wrap it up for this edition of InfoWars Nightly News. I've been your host, Paul Joseph Watson. Continue to check out all the breaking news at Infowars.com, and we will see you on the next edition of InfoWars Nightly News. Take care.
Sick of the globalists, eugenicists, control freaks adding poison to your water and laughing as you get sick and die? Start purifying your water with ProPure. My friends, I've done a lot of research, and the best gravity filter out there, bar none, is ProPure, and it's available discounted at Infowars.com. Its filters are silver impregnated to prevent bacterial growth. There's no priming required. It's NSF 42 certified. Optional fluoride filters can reduce fluoride up to 95%. Easy to set up and use. Doesn't require electricity. Purify water from lakes, streams, ponds, and wells. This filter system leaves in beneficial minerals, which is key. Save money by not buying bottled water and avoid BPA that leaches from the plastic. ProPure is the best gravity-fed filter out there. It's what my family uses. Infowars.com already has the lowest price on ProPure, but if you add the promo code WATER at checkout, you get an additional 10% off at Infowars.com. You can also call to order 888-253-3139.